Texas volleyball looks to continue in the NCAA tournament. Texas basketball packs Gregory Gym for the first time in 44 years, and it's college football championship weekend. All this and more coming up on the 1-0 Sports Show.
Texas finally 1-0, finally riding for the brand, although Tom Herman did say they were 1-0 10 times last season.
Feinbaum, I'll give him like half a point.
Dude, you like okay. Feinbaum way too much.
Yeah, all right. I'm like
you're
I'm the Feinbaum of this show.
By the way, that looks Ohio State. Is that an omen? Give me that Longhorn hat.
Oh man!
Hook him, baby.
All right, he's pulling the torso.
It's December time, and that means that it is time for championships. NCAA volleyball, NCAA football, they're all closing in on crowning national champions. We've got so much to talk about, head coaches on the move. But first, I want to welcome in Edly. Edly, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, kind of a rough morning, but we're getting there. And, it's champion season, basketball season, and a lot of coaches are moving on from their old schools. So, there's a lot going on.
There you go. When you get to finals week, it's all about surviving and advancing day by day. But, man, we've got a lot to talk about. So let's get in and start it like we start every 1-0 sports show with who's hot and who's not. I'm going to kick it off. How about the Houston Rockets? This will probably be the only time this year that you'll ever see the Rockets next to who's hot. But hey, they've won 4 in a row. They beat the Bulls, they beat the Hornets in overtime, then they beat up on the lowly Thunder twice. But when you look at this team is pretty much made with a little bit of duct tape and some Gorilla Glue pretty much. You got Jayshawn Tate, who played in Europe and Australia before coming back to the U.S. You got Garrison Matthews, an undrafted player out of Lipscomb. You got Kevin Porter Jr., who's been a great find for the Rockets after they acquired him in a trade from the Cavaliers. And the Rockets' big money man, John Wall, he's not even playing right now while they look for a trade. So, credit to Stephen Silas. He doesn't have a ton to work with, but he's got this Rockets team on a 4-game win streak.
I kind of agree because it's a young team.
Mm-hmm. Very young.
Team, and I think that John Wall trade they're looking for a veteran, maybe somebody who can lead them, kind of like a Andre Iguodala of the Warriors back in 2015, that kind of era. They kind of need that
veteran presence.
That veteran who can take them, like Chris Paul last year with Devin Booker and the Suns. And it's a really talented group, just need a veteran. But I totally agree that they're hot right now.
For sure. And Edly, I think we might be sticking the NBA for yours. Who's hot?
Yeah, Phoenix Suns, they're very hot, and let me tell you, their 17 winning streak, they're going to try tonight to see if they can make it 18. That means it's going to be the longest winning streak in their franchise history.
Wow.
And so they haven't, this is crazy for them because they haven't had a 17 winning streak since the 06-07 season. So Chris Paul, and they did it without Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really dangerous. And so tonight they're going to a hostile Warriors territory.
Yep.
And Steph Curry, he got 12 points. And so knowing Steph, he's going to try to come back in revenge time. And so, but I believe the Suns can make it to 18. I think they can win tonight.
Big test tonight. You'll certainly see if the Suns are for real. It'll be maybe a little bit of preview, maybe a Western Conference final, Western Conference playoff game down the road.
Yeah, it's going to be them. It's going to be Warriors and Suns, definitely.
Well, I'm going to stick in basketball for my who's not, and we're going to go out to the SWAC, the Arkansas Pine Bluff basketball team. Texas actually plays them here in a couple weeks, but they were playing Iowa State earlier this week. Their first-year coach, Solomon Bozeman, let's just say he was not impressed with his team early on in the second half. Pine Bluff was down 44-24 with 18 minutes to go. Bozeman called a timeout, but it wasn't to talk strategy. It wasn't to make substitutions. No, it was to make his team run laps. He made his team run a couple of laps during the middle of the Iowa State game in the Iowa State arena. I've never seen that at the college or the professional level.
That was just so crazy. And I think it's out of frustration. They're, starting bad early can really make a temper on the chemistry of the basketball team. So I think Arkansas, for the next few games, probably the next 5 games, they just got to put their heads together and figure out.
Yeah, obviously it's a tough task for Pine Bluff to go out to Ames, Iowa, but I would guess Bozeman probably just not pleased with the effort of his team. He knows that it's going to be a tough task for them to win or maybe even keep it close, but no matter, how much the talent is different, effort is something that should never be, different. You should never see a team not giving their full effort out on the court. Flipping over now, Edly, who's not?
Well, I'm going to the NFL, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, this has been a bump in road from the Steelers. Last year they were kind of undefeated until they met the Washington football team. And so, I mean, it's really, Mike Tomlin is frustrated. There's swirling in the media that Chase Claypool wanted music in the practice, and it's just very much, and it's really not Steelers. Steelers are known for, even though they don't go far, they're known for that dynasty.
Yep.
They're a dynasty team, and Mike Tomlin is going to be that Hall of Fame coach. He has led this team into 7 division titles and about two Super Bowl appearances. And so having a coach like Mike Tomlin going through this, it's really hard. And having Ben going through this, and I feel like Ben just, he's had that Hall of Fame career. I just think he needs to pack it up.
Yeah, they need to get a new quarterback. That's the issue. They haven't gotten a replacement for Ben Roethlisberger yet, but man, Sunday was brutal. They got ran off the field by the Bengals.
Especially by the Bengals. That is in the NFC North, that is, the Bengals are like it's like the Steelers' little brother. Yeah. So that is like getting your butts kicked by your little brother in front of your parents. So it's really embarrassing. And so, looking at that division, I see the Ravens and the Bengals. I really don't think the Steelers are going to the postseason. But I also think that's good. So they can be close to the NFL draft to get a quarterback. I think that's what they need.
I would agree with that. I mean, the Steelers, they have a chance to maybe be the worst team in the AFC North right now, because the Browns aren't bad either. The teams from Ohio are finally showing up. But that'll wrap up who's hot, who's not for today. Let's flip over to what's trending. And man, it was a party on campus on Monday. Texas playing at Gregory Gym for the first time in 44 years, where they defeated Sam Houston State 73-57. So Edly, what were your thoughts? What were your reactions about this game and really the atmosphere surrounding it?
I mean, I went there and joined Clark and Jason Contender. They were, reporting for us
on the coverage. Yep.
Yeah, and just this team is just so put together. And Chris Beer, I mean, they're just that fun team. But they know like when it's work time also. So, I mean, the crowd was packed. It was a fun night. And
it was.
I think next year they should do more of these games at Gregory Gym, because the atmosphere, and it keeps the students pumped. After having a rough football season, we need something. We need something to like generate us, and coming back for the spring semester to for more people to come to the games. But honestly, the star Marcus Carr, he went off
exactly
that game, and you know what? I see them winning the Big 12.
Dang, big call right here by Edly on the One Sports Show. But I agree with you on Marcus Carr. That was his coming out party. 19 points for him. He shot the ball really well from the field. You talked about really just how deep this team is. Andrew Jones, Courtney Romey both had 14. Trey Mitchell didn't have a big of a night, but he's been a force in the post. And then Timmy Allen is a pretty consistent presence. But I agree with you. I think this is something that needs to be an annual occurrence. I think obviously with the Moody Center opening, you won't have more than one game at Gregory Gym, but I think one game each year. against kind of a bye team, against a smaller team like Sam Houston. That way, because obviously, it's not allowing ticket buyers to get into the game, so it is excluding some people. But I think for a smaller game against like Sam Houston, I think that's kind of the perfect, medium, perfect chance to have a student-only game and have a crazy atmosphere like that again. But
And the Darty.
yeah, the Darty by Chris Beard. But credit to Chris Beard. I think he's certainly energized the basketball program and energized the student body surrounding the basketball program.
Yeah, and Texas needs that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Moving on to Texas's arch rivals up in Norman, Oklahoma. It has been a bit of a dumpster fire up there this week. Lincoln Riley leaving the Sooners for USC on Sunday, and that has left plenty of rumors and plenty of decommits in its trail. Edly, there are all sorts of rumors from Cliff Kingsbury to Matt Rule. Is there a name that you've heard that maybe you think, what are your thoughts on the situation in Oklahoma? Do you have a name that you think could be their next head coach?
Well, with Kingsbury, that's a far stretch.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? A lot of people said that's really a far stretch, but I think he might return to college, to be honest. But right now with Arizona, he's really doing good with Arizona. It's just Kyle needs to get back into the game from that injury. But depending how they go far with Arizona this year, I think he can come back to Oklahoma. But I feel like he's so loyal to Texas Tech that might not happen. But I think they might get an NFL coach around.
It'd be interesting. It'd be a return to his Big 12 roots, like you said, and kind of made his. I guess he made his name at Texas Tech. He was a very average coach, I think, at Texas Tech. They were never great, but they also never played any defense. But he's got the Cardinals at 9-2 right now.
Yeah. So he had at Texas Tech. He had Patrick Mahomes. Coming back to the Big 10. To Big 12, and then coming to a team that's kind of already established, like Oklahoma. I don't see that as a far stretch. I think he could do that.
No, that would certainly be a huge splash higher up in Norman, Oklahoma. A name I'm looking more on the college trails, college assistants. How about Brett Venables, the defensive coordinator for Clemson? He was the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma from 1999 to 2000 before he left for Clemson. He's been at Clemson the past decade. But, there are rumors swirling around that he wants the job, that former players are vouching for him. They say he should get the job. So, I think he's another name. If you don't get the splash high, if you don't get the Cliff Kingsbury, if you don't get the Matt Rule from the NFL, I think Brett Venables is a very realistic target. He obviously wants the job, and he's proven. I think honestly, what Oklahoma needs with the SEC move coming up, they need a defensive-minded coach, because in the SEC they play some tough-nosed defense.
And you know what? Getting an SEC kind of somebody from the SEC kind of gives them the, a boost, because yes, Texas we have Stark, but having somebody from Clemson and Clemson, they're not doing that hot this year, but they always had a record.
You look at the past 5, 6, 7 years. This Clemson team has been a dynasty this past decade.
So it's a dynasty, and so getting a person from Clemson, that's gonna be a good target for Oklahoma, honestly.
Yeah, let's go. It'd be definitely interesting to see what ends up happening in Norman. But let's actually go back to college basketball. I know we opened with Texas. Let's look around the country, man. It was a wild couple of days in college basketball. You had Duke knocking off Gonzaga late last week, and then Ohio State turning around and knocking off Duke early this week. So that's 2 number ones going down in quick succession. So, Edly, kind of quickly, who do you think, right now in your eyes, who do you think is the number 1 team in college basketball?
Honestly, you haven't said it yet, but Purdue, they haven't lost yet, and I really like their team. They have a great chemistry with the players, and honestly, even though Duke lost to Ohio State, I still believe Duke is out there for the running. I think Ohio State was maybe a fluke, and they just it was just not their night for Duke, so I believe I got Purdue and Duke right now.
Yeah, for sure. Teams don't go undefeated in college basketball. You're going to have a slip-up like that throughout the year. So, it's just, they play 30-plus games, so it's tough to go unblemished. Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm keeping an eye on Baylor. This is a Baylor team that lost a couple guys to the NBA, but, man, they've reloaded, and they've had some big wins. They beat Stanford by 38. They beat Arizona State by 12, beat VCU by 8, and their biggest win was they beat Michigan State, a ranked Michigan State team, by 17. They've got an Arizona transfer in James Akinjo, who's scored 15 against Michigan State. They've got LJ Cryer, who averaged just 3 points per game last year. Now he's averaging 14.5 points per game. Max Meyer, he's returning. He's scoring 4 to 5 more points per game than he was last year. So credit to Scott Drew, even though there was on paper maybe a little bit less talent on this Baylor team, they're playing just as well, and they're ranked number 2 in the country right now.
I think they're gonna be like Swiper the Fox. You're not really gonna see them. Mm-hmm. It's like that low key team.
Exactly.
Like if you're not prepared, if you have Baylor on your schedule and you're not prepared for them, they're gonna eat you up. So that's what I think about Baylor.
Definitely keep an eye on the Bears. And I think, like you said about Duke, I think Gonzaga's going nowhere. They're going to be at the top of college basketball all year long. They've got too much talent in Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren. But that'll wrap up our first segment here on the 1-0 Sports Show. But don't worry, we'll be back in just a minute. And John Kelley, TSTV Sports Director, will join us. He's going to help us break down some of the best plays and the worst blooper from the week. You're watching the 1-0 Sports Show. Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show, now joined by Mr. TSTV Sports Director John Kelley. John, good to have you on this morning. How you doing?
I'm great, Adam. Great to be here.
John serving as the judge this morning, going to help us decide who, me or Edly, if we had the better play or the worst blooper.
All right.
So let's get right into it. Let's start in the NBA. The best NBA play you saw this week, and I'll get us rolling here. How about a little bit of Trae Young as we get the highlight going. Look at this with the moves, breaking some ankles, a little crossback, and then he said goodbye to the defender. That ended up being a clutch basket. Atlanta won this game by 3 points in the end, but man, that final move right there just to leave the defender for dead. I mean, Trae Young, he's so dangerous with the basketball. Edly, what do you have?
Well, I got the DeAndre Ekman and Steph Curry. They were on Steph Curry a lot that game. And so, blocking Steph Curry's three-pointer just right at his fingertips. That game was explosive and very tight.
Yeah, it was definitely a good performance. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the ankle breaking. It's always fun to see. Yeah,
because that's a professional basketball player, man, and Trae Young put him on skates.
The film room devastated.
Yeah, oh man, that's going to be a tough film session the day after the game, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stick with some basketball. Let's go to some college hoops. I've got one I actually saw this one live. Let's go to the Gregory Gym game, Texas Sam Houston, but unfortunately it's not the Horn. Sam Houston trying to break the press right here. And look at this, Javion May all over Timmy Allen, man. I mean, the air just went out of Gregory Gym when May made this dunk. I think everyone knew that it was a pretty impressive dunk. I mean, he put Timmy Allen on a poster. Great job by Sam Houston there to break the press, and definitely a memorable dunk for Javion May.
Mm-hmm.
Ellie, what do you have for us?
I have Duke's Mike Williams blocking Ohio State's Zed Key. It was really tight in the beginning, but Mike Williams has just been explosive, and I believe he's going to be a superstar for Duke. Just getting him, denying the access to the hoop.
They're both great performances, great show of ability. But this one is kind of show-offy, so I'm going to have to go with Edly. The blocking is just good technique, and overall, it's the winner for this segment.
That's probably what I get for bringing an anti-Texas clip onto our show. I apologize for Timmy Allen, great post player for the Longhorns. But we're all knotted up at one after 2 rounds, so I say it's time for some football. It's time for the best football play we saw this week, and I'm going to go down to the Valley. How about them Tigers? Ed Orgeron, LSU taking on Texas A&M, closing seconds, 26 seconds to go. It's going to be up top to Jeray Jenkins. 28 yards with just 20 seconds to go, and just a great throw by Max Johnson. He's under pressure. Texas A&M brings a blitz, but Johnson perfectly throws over the A&M defender, puts it where only his man gets it, gets LSU a bowl bid in the final closing seconds of the game, sends Ed Orgeron out on top. So for that, that's my top football moment of the week. Ellie, what do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to the professional world, going to NFL, and it's Lamar Jackson throwing a great touchdown to his right-hand man, Mark Andrews. It's just an incredible beating the blitz, finding a way from this Browns defense. You know, this game was, although it was nasty, it was not a pretty sight. But, you know, Lamar, when push comes to shove, he's going to do his thing, and he's going to find a way.
He's a magician.
He's just,
He is. I tell you what, y'all did your research. I'm torn by these two clips. I was watching the A&M LSU game with my father. He's an Aggie. And nothing brought me more joy. To throw the touchdown, he was like, oh no. And I was sitting there like, haha, sucker. But at the same time, I'm a really big Ravens fan. And so for that, I gotta go with the Ravens clip. I was watching that live. My heart was skipping a couple beats. But this team, they're great. They're going to win the Super Bowl. And, you know, these kind of plays are going to get them there.
Edly did her research. She knew how to cater to our judge. But going from best football play, let's look at the opposite. Let's look at the worst blooper from the week. How about this? Florida and Florida State playing for bowl eligibility. Both teams 5-6, going for the onside kick. And instead of going 10 yards, it goes about 10 inches. He whiffs, and the ball just kind of falls off the tee. Not what you want to have when the game is on the line. Down by 3, trying to get into bowl eligibility against your arch rivals, and your kicker whiffs on the onside kick. I don't think I've ever seen a kicker whiff like that before.
Look, I tell you, I feel bad for kickers. In my opinion, they're the most valuable position on the team. You know, quarterbacks, you know, if they're not great, just hand the ball off to the running back.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Bijan Robinson.
Exactly. With kickers, you can make or break the game every game. You miss an extra point, you could lose by that 1 point. In this situation, the entire game, the going to bowl game, all rests on this kicker, and he makes a mistake. And it's not his fault that his team's in that position.
Yeah.
But for the entire rest of the season, the fan base is going to be blaming that kicker for that play. So it's rough. But Edly, let's see what you got.
okay, I got the TJ Watt versus Joe Burrow. I'm telling you, the Steelers and Bengals game was very heated. And it's Joe Burrow threw an interception, and then you just see this ongoing fight.
Oh.
And Joe's trying to get a punch, really can't. It's just TJ. The Watt brothers are just so big, you can't. And you know, after they asked him at the press conference, and it's just for Joe, it was just like water under the bridge, nothing too deep. Just, you know, football is football, basically.
Well, you know what they tell defensive players when the quarterback throws an interception? They say, go find the quarterback. Go get a hit on the quarterback, because you can get a legal block on a quarterback since they're technically, you know, a defensive player now. So, you know, TJ Watt probably doing what he told there, but it was certainly a little bit of a scuffle there between him and one of the.
Unending
Yeah.
scuffle.
Oh, well, this is going to be rough. You know, unfortunately, because it brought out such an emotional response in me, I'm going to have to pick the kicker play. Get it all tied up again, I think.
Yeah, there we go, 2-2. So why don't we decide this with the best play from a 5-7 Texas football season? Nothing better than that. Here we go. Let's go up to Dallas. My play comes back from the Red River rivalry, back when things were so rosy and we thought that Texas was maybe a Big 12 contender, maybe a national contender. How about this very first play, the Red River rivalry? Casey Thompson to Xavier Worthy making men miss. And you can say goodnight to that when he goes 75 yards down the sideline. I mean, I was there, and man, the burnt orange half of the stadium was going crazy. I think John Kelley, you just pointed yourself out there on the camera.
That clip.
So John, you were in this. You saw this live. He was coming towards you, but, man, breaking some ankles there and then showing that breakaway speed down the sideline for the Longhorns. It was a great start to that game, and we won't talk about the second half. Edly, what do you have for us?
I have the Tech game, which was a blowout, so a little bit of a reliever here. And it's just Thompson getting that pick six close to the end zone. That was just a crazy game. And, Josh is going to be very missed at UT. And he's just that star player. He's what makes the defense drive. And he's just, he controls the defense and he controls the mood. And throughout that game, Texas just, hold Tech to, like, on a fire. So nothing Tech couldn't do.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed like nothing could go wrong for Texas in that game.
Yeah.
But, John, for the B block decider, the final one of the semester, which was the best play of the Texas football season out of those two?
Both really incredible plays. I was even witness to one of them, but I'm going to have to go with the Texas Tech one. I think both plays are great, but this was back when
things
I
were
had
rosy.
confidence in that Texas, although this clip was in the first half of that OU game.
Yeah.
But I feel bad about that OU game, so Edly's going to win it, take all the marbles.
Well, there you go. Congratulations, Edly. You said you were up in the press box after that Texas-Oklahoma game. It was a rough time.
It was very, very rough, but Corny Dogs got through.
There you go.
Stay fair.
Well, if that wasn't enough Texas football talk for you, don't worry. We'll have Texas football trivia coming up on the next block. So everything you'll ever want to know about a 5-7 Texas football team. Don't go anywhere. John and Edly will be back. They'll be contesting it this time to see who remembers the most about the Texas football season. The many want to forget. You're watching the One and O Sports Show. Welcome back into the One and O Sports Show. John and Edly, it's time for some Texas football trivia. Let's test your memories about a forgettable 2021 season. So, first game, let's focus on some positives, okay? In what game did Texas score the most points, and how many points did they score?
It was Tech, and it was 70.
That is correct. They blew out the Red Raiders in that game. It seemed like nothing could go wrong. I mean, Texas, they called off the Dogs in the fourth quarter, too. They could have put a couple more touchdowns on the Red Raiders. That is correct. Longhorns putting up 70 against Texas Tech. Now, we talked a lot about how Texas was the first half team this year and then things we don't talk about in the second halves. Yeah. But how many other 12 games did the Longhorns lead at halftime?
I'm going to say... Let's see. Oh. 8.
That is correct. It is 8. So Texas led in every game at halftime, but Arkansas and then their last three, Kansas, West Virginia, and Kansas State. Texas all trailed at halftime in those. But for the first 8 or 9 games, they led at halftime at everyone but Arkansas. And then things kind of trailed off. And
should have been an 8-win season.
The second half, yeah, exactly. So 1-1 after 2 rounds. Let's take a look at the Texas football defense. Which player led the team in tackles this season?
I'm going to have to go with my boy from high school, Luke Brockermeyer.
Edly?
I'm going to go with Brent Scooter.
It's actually neither one. You're close on Brockermeyer. Luke Brockermeyer had 72 tackles. DeMarvion Overshown just edged him with 74. So,
the Arm Bandit, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's such a key player for this Texas defense, DeMarvion Overshown. So still 1-1 after 3 rounds. Now let's go to the offensive side. Which game did Bijan Robinson have the most rushing yards in?
Rice.
I'm going to say the Tech game as well.
Not quite. It's a Big 12 conference game.
TCU?
That is correct. It was TCU. Bijan had 216 rushing yards in that one. It felt like he just really carried the Longhorns to victory up in Fort Worth.
Well, if it was a Big 12 game, it would have been a shame if his most rushing yards were in a game we lost.
Yeah. So he did help the Longhorns get the victory. That's kind of before the wheels came off. That was about a week before when things were all still pretty bright here in Austin. Now let's go over to Casey Thompson. In which game did Casey Thompson throw for the most yards in?
Tech?
The Rice game.
Close. It's another Big 12 conference game.
TCU.
Oklahoma?
It was Oklahoma. He threw for 388 yards against the Sooners. So, John, I think you're up 3-1. We got 2 questions left. This one is going to be a tough one. I'm going to be honest. It's maybe not an answer that you would necessarily expect. Who do you guys think led the Longhorns in interceptions this year?
I'm going to go with my guy, Josh Thompson.
I'm going to have to say Josh Thompson, too. So.
It's not Josh Thompson. It's a safety.
Oh.
This one I think is the toughest question. This one wouldn't have come to mind for me either.
Safety? Wow. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all stumped?
I'm a pass, yeah.
It's B.J. Foster.
Wow.
He had 3 interceptions on the year, most on this Texas team. So, the man, he's almost known for as much as his big hits.
Yeah, for as many picks as Casey said, we would have hoped that our defense would have a higher leader than 3.
Yeah,
but,
for sure. Well, final question. Let's see if y'all can remember this. Which Longhorn player had the longest touchdown of the season?
Xavier Worthy?
That is correct. It was that 75-yard touchdown. We just played against Oklahoma. Roschon Johnson had a 72-yard touchdown rush against Kansas, but Worthy just edged him out with 75 yards. So, John, I think we'll erase this season from the record books now, but you did remember the most about the 2021 Texas football season. So you can
at least
see
somebody's going 1-0.
There you go. Our sports director knows his stuff. Now that we talked enough about Texas, let's talk about some other teams in college football. It's time to see who we think will be the top 4 following the championship games this week. Edly, let's start with you. Who's going to be your top 4 following the games this Saturday? Who do you think the playoff committee will choose?
I think this Georgia and Alabama. I think Alabama's going to, you can never go wrong with Nick Saban. So Alabama's number 1 for me. And then after that, Georgia. And then Michigan and Cincinnati.
Interesting. I'm going to go with Georgia. I think Georgia will get the number 1 seed. I think Michigan will come in with the number 2 seed. They looked so impressive against Ohio State. I'm going to go Oklahoma State at 3. I think that the Pokes they have such a great defense, and they've started to now pick up a couple of key wins, obviously knocking off their arch rivals, Oklahoma. They've already beaten Baylor once this year, and they have a chance to pick up another top 10 win this Saturday. And then I'm going to agree with Edly. I think Cincinnati's going to sneak there at 4. I think college football has been so chaotic this year with the ACC and Pac-12 out of the race. I think this is finally the year we're going to get a group of 5 team. John, who do you think?
Agree with both of y'all a little bit. Like Edly, I believe that Alabama, they're going to make some magic happen, get the win in the SEC championship game. However, I don't see the College Football Playoff Committee putting a 2-loss team at number 1. So with that said, Michigan is going to be my number 1. I think they're going to jump all the way up. Then Bama. Then because of how Georgia has been so dominant, I think they're going to drop down to 3. Coming in at 4th place, give me Cincinnati.
Yep.
There we go. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I think we just tipped our hands a little bit for the pick'ems that we got coming up at the end of the show. Don't worry, John will be back on in just a little bit. But when we come back, Daily Texan volleyball reporter Hannah Williford joins the show to break down the Longhorns' win over Sacred Heart last night and take a look at the rest of the tournament path for the Longhorns. You're watching the 1-0 Sports Show. Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. Now joined by Daily Texan volleyball reporter Hannah Williford. Hannah, how are you doing this morning?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Good stuff. Well, glad to have you on. And you know, volleyball, it's crunch time now in the postseason. Big win over Sacred Heart last night for the Longhorns. They've got Rice tonight, so Hannah's going to help us break it all down. But before we get into the tournament, you know, obviously a dominant 24-1 regular season for the Longhorns. So kind of what stood out to you about the team over the course of the regular season? Kind of what do you think makes this team such a national championship contender?
I think the team is just really physical. They are hard hitters, especially at the net with Logan and Skylar Fields. And I also think they have come out with a really strong serve this season. They're ranked number 2 in the nation for service aces. So I think that's going to be a really big factor, is just how aggressively they play.
It's all about how they play. So what did you make of the performance from the Longhorns last night?
I thought they looked really strong. I know something they've been talking about a little bit is making those scrappy plays, keeping the ball alive when they're out of system, and that's something that really came out last night. You saw some great dives to the ball and a lot of effort even when they were pretty far ahead, so that was nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. And now a win over Sacred Heart last night. They're into the round of 32, but they've got a tough opponent. It's kind of their arch nemesis in Rice. This Rice team has tripped them up before, especially last year in the regular season. So kind of what's the key for the Longhorns tonight so they don't trip up again and suffer a shocking upset to the Owls?
Yeah, I think for Texas, it's just about playing their game. You know, they're a pretty dominant team when they're on, and so I think if they keep the same mindset they had earlier this season, it's going to be no problem for them. But Rice looked really strong last night, so I think it'll be a good match.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really hard match, and I think it's going to be like a war zone. So, so we know Logan Eggestein, she's a star. But which other player on the Longhorns team stood out to you?
I think there's a couple. The other big component, I think, is Skylar Fields. She's had some really incredible matches this season. She's usually getting over 10 kills per game, and she's had games where she gets over 20 comfortably. So I think if she comes out and she's hitting hard and she's feeling on, that could be a big difference maker. And Melanie Parra with her serves, she's had 3 service ace runs this season, and so I think if she can really get in her rhythm, that's going to be a big difference maker for them.
Obviously, the Longhorns have, Rice tonight, but kind of looking further down the bracket, I mean, this was obviously a team that made it to the national championship game, so they have high aspirations. But as you look further out, the other teams are still remaining in the tournament. Which team or maybe a couple of teams do you think is going to be the biggest threat for the Longhorns as they try to get back to that national championship game?
Yeah, I think at the regional level, Kentucky is someone that we're really going to have to watch out for. They had a really close game against Louisville, who's the #1 seed, earlier this season. I think it was a 2-3 match. And then they also took a win against Stanford, I believe. So it's gonna be tight with them, and they're definitely gonna come out playing really hard.
Well, for sure, and that's the same Kentucky team that beat the Longhorns last year for the national title. So if that matchup happened, their storylines would be off the roof. It would definitely be a big-time match.
Absolutely.
So we know they have a lot of big threats. So how far do you believe the Texas volleyball team will go?
I really think there's a good chance that they can make it far in this tournament. Take that trip to Columbus. They've really been playing hard all season and really been in the zone. So I think that if they go out there and play their game, they have a chance to go all the way for sure.
Final prediction time. So do you think they go all the way? Do you think this team wins the national championship?
Oh, man.
We're going to put you on the spot right here on the 1-0 Sports Show.
Yeah, I think they can do it for sure. Yeah.
This Texas team is deep. It'll be certainly fun to watch this volleyball team go through the NCAA tournament, see if they can avenge last year's heartbreaking loss to Kentucky. But Hannah, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
When we come back, John Kelley will return. It'll be time for the favorite traditional part of the 1-0 Sports Show. It's time for the Pick'em games. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. For the final time today and for the final time this semester, welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. It's time to finish up this show how we finish up every show. It's time for the pick'ems. We've got the college football championship games coming up, but let's start in the NFL. John, the Ravens fan, you got to provide your expertise on this one. Your Ravens, 4.5-point favorites at the Steelers on Sunday. Who do you have in this one?
I got to take the Ravens. The Steelers just haven't been playing that well. Ravens looking to keep their dominance over the AFC, but 4.5 points, I think it's going to be within a field goal. It's going to be tough. This is a great rivalry match, and the Ravens have kind of been playing to the level of their opponents this year. So I'm going to take the Ravens, but not the 4.5 spread. I would say it's a 3-point game.
Got you. So he's got the Steelers to cover, Ravens to win. I actually disagree with you. I'm more confident than the Ravens fan, which probably isn't a good sign. I think the Ravens win and they cover. I mean, this Steelers team got ran off the field. They lost by 31 last week to the Bengals. I think the Ravens have enough to pull out maybe a touchdown victory in Pittsburgh. So I've got Ravens on both. Edly, what do you have?
I trust the Ravens. Steelers right now is just, if Steelers win, it's an upset. But I think Steelers needs to, the postseason is for them to rebuild it. And Ravens is just really hard. I think Lamar is coming for those haters who's been telling him he's just like a one game playoff guy. So I think he's trying to go on his revenge tour and going to the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. So I'm going to take the Ravens.
Interesting there. Let's go. Let's stay in the AFC. AFC West on Sunday night. Denver traveling to Kansas City. Chiefs, 9.5-point favorites. Let's go back to you, Edly. Who do you have in that game?
You know what? I have the Kansas City Chiefs, to be honest. I think Patrick Mahomes and the offense and the defense have really come back together. In the beginning, it's just, are they that team? Or, it's been question marks with, Kansas City. So I think Kansas City has finally found their mojo back. And I think they're going to blow out Denver. Sorry, Denver.
Great pick right there. I think Kansas City, since beating the Cowboys, Denver, they've lost the Eagles by 17, the Chargers by 15. I think this is a statement, double-digit win by the Chiefs at home. I got Kansas City to win and cover. John?
Got to pull out the pen. Not so fast. I'm going to take Denver on this one. They've had a couple of upsets, big upsets this season, and I think this is no different. I don't like the way Kansas City's been playing. Even though I'm Andy Reid every Halloween, I don't believe. I think Denver, it's also going to be another close one, but I think they're going to get the win this weekend.
All right, so you say Broncos win outright?
It'll be a close one.
Okay.
Yeah, Broncos win.
John going for the upset there. Let's stay in the AFC yet again. Monday night primetime. This is a good one, guys. Patriots at the Bills. Bills 2.5-point favorites. John, who do you have in that one?
I'm going to have to go with my fantasy quarterback with Josh Allen. Buffalo also haven't been playing as great as they have in the past, but neither has New England. But this is a rivalry game. They're in Buffalo. I'm going to have to take the Bills.
I'm going to take that pin for you, sir. Not so fast. I just feel like this is Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Why doubt them? Mac Jones is settling in. 310 yards and 2 touchdowns last week and a big win over the Titans. Obviously, maybe the Titans a little bit banged up now, but, I like the way Mac Jones is playing. I agree. I think it's a close game. I'll say Patriots by a field goal. Edly?
Same with this Patriots by a field goal. And this is Bill Belichick. This is what he's been doing off season, getting players together. And he wanted Mac Jones. He got Mac Jones. And this is the battle of number one. And, Buffalo, this is Buffalo's test to see, are you legit? Because beating Bill Belichick, it's the defense with New England this whole season, basically, when you look at their plays. So it's like, can you outsmart Bill Belichick for Buffalo? But I'm going to take Patriots by a field goal.
Good stuff on that one. Well, that wraps up for the NFL. Now let's go to college football. Let's go a little bit quicker on these. Friday night football action. Pac-12, number 10, Oregon. Number 17, Utah. Utah, 2.5-point favorites. They blew out Oregon last time these two teams played. Edly, what's happening this time?
You know what? I feel like you guys are going to take Utah. I'm taking Oregon. I believe Oregon's going to come back for this one. I feel Oregon got it. I feel like this time they're not gonna let themselves be embarrassed again. So I'm gonna take Oregon just by a field goal. It's gonna be a hard match.
Man, I mean, Oregon, I feel like, has played every average Pac-12 team close. They always say it's hard to beat a team twice, but Utah was so convincing a couple weeks ago. I think the Utes can do it again. This game is not going to be a blowout. It is not going to be like the last time. This will be, I think, a one-possession game. I think Utah pulls it out by a touchdown and clinches a spot in the New Year's Six Bowl.
I'm going to have to agree with Adam on this one. I think organizational memory is a big thing. Even though, college players come and go, there's still people, student athletes that remember a couple years ago when Oregon came in to the Pac-12 championship game and took away Utah's chance at a CFP berth. And I think now we're back in that situation. Roles are reversed. Well, Oregon not probably able to get to the CFP, but still getting a New Year's Six Bowl and just being top dog. I think Utah's going to come in there and take all the marbles.
Revenge time there. Maybe a chance of revenge in the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma State beat Baylor earlier this year. The number 5 Pokes are 5.5-point favorites over the number 9 Bears at Jerry's World up in Arlington. John, who do you have in that game?
I mentioned this before the show. I hope nobody wins in this game. But unfortunately, I think Oklahoma State's going to win. They've just been playing better than Baylor all season, and Baylor kind of sucks.
I agree. Oklahoma State has the 5th best scoring defense in college football. Baylor quarterback Jerry Bohannon's banged up. They're actually not even sure if he's going to play. It'll be interesting to follow that storyline. I think that's going to allow Oklahoma State to come away with a win, and I think that win, with another top 10 victory over Baylor, I think it puts them in the college football playoffs. Edly, what do you think?
You know what? I'm gonna take Baylor. I'm gonna go with Waco. I feel like Baylor, they're just like that revenge group. I know the quarterback's banged up, and the quarterback's a question mark. We don't know what's gonna happen, but I feel like Baylor coming in with that defense. It's gonna be a tight game. I don't expect a blowout. I feel like it's a one-possession game, and I feel like just by luck and chance, Baylor comes with the upset, to be honest.
Wow, big call there. Edly saying the Bears are going to knock off the Pokes. Let's go to a game that will have huge implications on the college football playoff. In the SEC title game, number 1 Georgia, a 6.5-point favorite over number 3 Alabama. Edly, who do you have in this one?
I said Alabama, Nick Saban, and what he did with Auburn last week. But I'm going to take Georgia. I just have more confidence in Georgia. They've been on a roll all year long. And I think it's going to be a tight game. It might be like the Auburn game like last week, like 4 overtimes. I believe it may go all the way down there. So, but by a slim chance, just slim, Georgia.
I agree with you on the pick. I've got Georgia too. I mean, this defense is legit. They've just allowed 83 points all year, 83 total points. I mean, they're averaging, I think they're allowing just a little bit over 6 points per game. I mean, it's ridiculous what this defense has done. I think Georgia wins this by double digits. I think Georgia makes a statement win, and I think Georgia kicks Alabama out of the college football playoffs with that statement win. This Georgia team has dominated teams all year, and this Alabama team is not as good as a Nick Saban coach team normally is. They played LSU close. They played Auburn real close. I like Georgia, and I like Georgia by double digits. John?
Well, I think the real winners, I don't know they'll be claiming this because they beat this team earlier this season, Texas A&M. Because Alabama's going to be taking the SEC championship. They got that magic. Nick Saban, he's a genius football coach, and I think they're going to come in here, and I say a lot, take all the marbles away from Georgia.
Dang. You think they'll throw a fake SEC champion parade like UCF did a couple of years ago in C-Stat?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, man. Let's stay with another Texas, talking about A&M. We got a Texas school here coming up. Number 21, Houston, looking to stun the world and knock off number 3, Cincinnati in the American Championship on Saturday. Let's go a little bit of a speed round for these next couple. Cincinnati, a 10.5-point favorites. John, do they take care of business?
I think they do. This is the real Big 12 championship game right here. Both teams going to be in the Big 12 later on. Cincinnati's taking it, and they're going to punch their ticket to the CFP with this win over Houston.
I think Cincinnati wins. I think 10.5 points is a lot. This is a good Houston team averaging 38 points per game. I think Cincinnati's played some of these American teams tight. Cincinnati wins, but Houston keeps it within single digits.
Yeah, I agree. Houston keeps it in single digits, but Cincinnati, I don't think you're going to come in their home turf and knock them out. Cincinnati has this all the way.
Big game in the Big Ten. Michigan looking to punch a playoff ticket. They'll be in with a win. 11-point favorites against number 13 Iowa. Edly, who do you have?
I have Michigan. I just trust Harbaugh's coaching. I trust him. And after what the upset with Ohio State, yeah, I think he's really pumped and he has the confidence that we've been looking for ever since he got that job. So I'm taking Michigan.
I agree with you. Great pick on that one. Michigan, they blew out Ohio State. They won by 15. It was an impressive performance. Ran for 300 yards. Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks. Iowa's tailed off a little bit this year after a hot start. I think Michigan takes care of business. I'll take them to cover. I think they control this game on the ground.
I agree with all y'all. This is Michigan's year, foreshadowing. And I think they're going to take the points and the win.
How about this one? This game's a little bit under the radar. It's kind of two random teams really in the ACC. I mean, you wouldn't see this pretty much any other year, but how about number 15 Pitt? They're 3-point favorites against number 16 Wake Forest for the ACC championship game on Saturday night at 7. John, who do you have in that one?
They're the underdogs in this one, but I think they've just been playing better all season. I'm going to take Wake Forest.
I say not so fast on that one. Wake Forest actually can't stop anyone, and that's an issue when you Kenny Pickett for Pittsburgh throwing for 340 yards a game. This one's going to be, I think, first 1 to 40 wins. I think this is going to be a shootout, and I'm going to take Pitt to outgun the Demon Deacons. Edly?
You know, Wake Forest has always been my underdog since this season. You know, I love Wake Forest. I feel like Wake Forest has it, but it's a 3-point game, to be honest.
Who do you pick?
Oh, Wake Forest.
There you go.
They're my underdog.
There you go.
I love Wake Forest.
The Demon Deacons.
Yeah.
That would be cool to see really either of those teams in New Year's Six Bowl. It would be kind of a breath of fresh air. But as we said, this is our final show for the semester. We're not coming back till mid-January. So that means we've got to pick a national champion now. Time for our college football national champion prediction. Edly, who do you think will win it all in January?
The Bulldogs. It's going to be Georgia. I feel like Georgia will knock off Nick Saban, and I think they go all the way. I believe Georgia. I don't know. I don't care who they're up against. It's going to be Georgia.
Yeah, if Georgia-Michigan ends up being a national championship game, that'll be a fantastic game. But I think Georgia, their defense has just been too good this year. I read the stats out a little bit ago. 83 total points given up all year. They've been the undisputed best team in college football all year long, and there's pretty much been chaos beneath them. It's been Georgia and everyone else. I think that'll be representative in the national championship game. Give me the Dogs to win it all. John?
I agree with your pick for the CFP game. It'll be Georgia-Michigan. But we got to remember, this game is being played at Lucas Oil Stadium up in Indianapolis. That's basically a home game for the Michigan Wolverines. And because of that, I'm going to have to say go blue. Give me Michigan to win it all.
All right. Well, we got 2 Georgia picks and a Michigan pick. But, man, this college football season's been so chaotic. It's going to be certainly fun to watch over the next month. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for tuning in all semester long. Big thanks to John and Edly for joining us this morning. Big thanks to Jackson back in the master control and everyone else who makes this show possible. We will see you in mid-January. Have a great weekend. Have a Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year's too. We'll see you in 2022.